Okay, hello everybody. Here we are. It is our final week, week 6 of our course, and it sure has flown by. I'm sure you will agree with me. We have gone through an entire lifetime, it seems like, pardon the pun, or not even a pun, pardon the joke. In just this 6 weeks, we started out from conception, embryo, eggs, fetus, baby, toddler, on up through our young childhood, older childhood, teenage years, young adulthood, older adulthood, and here we are in our final week. We're going to talk about death and dying, which is not necessarily a fun topic to talk about, but looking at it from a scientific standpoint and looking at it from a Christian standpoint makes it certainly a little bit more palatable and a little bit easier. We all have had to deal with death on some level, I imagine. Some people really haven't had anyone close to them die yet, perhaps. That's a possibility, but it's unlikely. That may not be the closest people in your family or your closest loved ones or friends, but on some level, I imagine that we've all had to deal with it one way or another, even if it was just helping a friend get through the loss of a loved one, the death of a loved one that they were close to. Obviously, this is a way deeper topic than we'll have time to get to cover completely. But I do want to touch on a couple of things. And I'll share some personal experiences, personal professional experiences that I just dealt with in October. And we'll use that as our backdrop, our example to integrate, as I said, the theory with the application. There is a great exercise that I do sometimes when we look at our churches, and we say, are churches doing enough to help prepare their congregants for death? And oftentimes the answer is no. And it's kind of ironic when you think about it, because churches are really out there preaching the gospel and assuring people that God's love has secured them and that God's forgiveness knows no bounds no matter what they've done, short of blasphemy of the Holy Spirit, according to the Bible, which is a whole other topic. That's as far as I'll go with that. But yet to let people know that there is life after death on this earth, and life will continue after death. So churches kind of do that. But in terms of the pragmatic and practicality of preparing for what's necessary on this earth in our final, as us, we ourselves, or our loved ones take our final breath, in terms of preparing memorials, preparing for funerals, the expense of the final costs of a funeral, upwards of, anywhere from, probably, depending on where you live, anywhere from $3,000 to $25,000, and could go obviously a lot more for certain instances if you have that kind of money and just want to really go, I'll say extreme for lack of a better word. Anyway, so one of the things that I deal with is parents or adults when they lose someone or someone in the family dies. How to help children understand that. And and I just dealt with this, as I said, in the month of October at the elementary school where I work as a full-time counselor. Most of you know that I'm an adjunct professor for Central Christian College of Kansas, and my full-time job is as a counselor. I do some consulting too, but we had a student of ours, 5 years old, died as a result of a fire. Tragic. There's given everything on all the parameters. It was in the news down here, and you could look it up anyways in the news anywhere on the internet. In a Pompano Beach fire on October 13th, a 5-year-old and a 5-month-old, two children perished in the fire. And from the best information I have, they perished as a result of smoke inhalation. So they didn't die, I don't believe, and I have not been able to completely determine this, as a result of burns, which would be a much worse way to go. But I understand they found them both in their room, laying in the bed. So that indicate, and they were sleeping when the older person that was watching, a 15-year-old, was watching them and left, and a fire started, and these children perished. There was a 2-year-old and a 15-year-old who did not. The 15-year-old was the children's aunt, and the 2-year-old was, for all 3 children, the 2-year-old and her left to go to the store. Tragic situation. So what do you do when you have to go to school and talk to her classmates about this? Well, here's the thing. 5-year-olds don't really get it. We talked about, and I would like to use this example. When you look at cognitive development, we know that in pre-operational with Piaget, if you have 2 containers of water, each with 12 ounces of water, and you show these 2 containers to a child at that stage, and one of the containers is thin and tall, and the water comes up to here, and the other container is a little, broader, and the water comes up to here. So you have water here and water here. The child will tell you, no matter what, that there's more water in the tall cylinder. They'll say there's more water there. You can pour it back and forth and everything you want to do, and the child will think somehow or another the water expanded or reduced, whatever the case is. It's not their fault. Our brain develops in vitro, if you will, in the mother's womb, and our brain continues to develop until we're probably in our mid-20s. And at this stage, at a very pre-operational stage, kids their mind's not there. They can't get their mind around that. They can't see that. Again, it's just who they are. Likewise, the reason I brought this up, likewise, when you try to explain to them that someone has died, they can't completely get their mind around that. They don't understand the finality of that. They don't understand the permanency of that. Moreover, again, we all were this way when we were that age, around 4, 5, 6. We're egocentric. It's all about us. We think we are the center of the universe. That includes when parents fight or parents get a divorce, the child blames themselves because they think that they did something. Oftentimes they want to get better so their parents, do better, so their parents can get back together. They think that they are the reason all things happen in the world. They're looking out for themselves. So that's kind of a important component to why they don't understand it, because how does it impact me? They want to know 2 things. Are they okay, and are they going to be okay? Because it's all about them. Secondarily to that, they want to know if their parents are okay and will be okay. They love them, but more importantly, the reason they want to know if their parents are going to be okay is because their parents take care of them. So that's what they want to know, and then they kind of move on. They don't memorialize or grieve in the same way that we grieve or memorialize the death of a important person in our life. So we did this with these young children who were in this girl's class. There is one girl who had grown close to her, and she's having a bit of a tough way, like she misses her. It's similar to if the child had moved away. And again, she misses her because she misses having a playmate. Again, all about her. I don't mean that in a mean-spirited way, or it's not bad. It's just developmentally where we are. So, and I've had parents not be able to get their mind around that. I've had other adults who are caregivers for children not be able to understand that, and they want to do something. They want to rescue the kids. Kids don't really understand until around 7, 8 sometimes. That's typically the beginning of where they understand what death means. So I've had parents not want to tell their children when something happens. Kids who are even older, like the 5-year-olds, you tell them, you move on. The older kids, I've had parents say, well, we're not going to tell them. If I find out something. We don't know how to tell them that Uncle Jimmy or Uncle Bill or Aunt Susie died. So we're just not going to tell them. We're going to tell them that they've gone away. Well, parents are, the adults I understand are grieving too, but that is like the most terrible thing. That's awful. That's not how you handle it. One of the things that children will resent as they get older is that they weren't given the choice and the chance to grieve on their terms. Everyone grieves differently. Well, not completely differently, but we all have our unique way of grieving, and that's determined by ourselves. But parents actually, they think that's a good plan. And I kind of have to sit them down and say, listen, I understand that you want to save your child from grieving, and you want to rescue your child, and you don't want them to hurt, especially the closer they were to the relative. But the fact of the matter is, kids are more resilient than we give them credit for sometimes, and they need that chance. They need that opportunity. They will survive it. You will be setting yourself up for the tremendous failure if you don't let them do that, because they will find out at some point, and they will be very angry and resentful that they were not allowed to make that determination for their own. Now, you need to do it in a developmentally appropriate way. You need to be supportive for them. It's not a mean thing. It's a family thing. It's part of life. It's supposed to hurt. As Christians, we know this. Depending on our beliefs, whether we go straight to heaven or we go to purgatory. There are some Christians who believe that once you're dead, you cease to live until Jesus' return. Ultimately, though, we as Christians, because of Jesus' love and God's love and Jesus' sacrifice, we will be with him in the new kingdom throughout eternity, regardless of what happens there. That's a theological lesson, a lesson for the religion class, not here. But so you support each other in that, and you support each other based on your religious beliefs and things such as that. Each family, and that's something as Christians, and as a Christian person who is a counselor and a consultant, I have to honor those people and their religious beliefs. I can answer questions. I can share my understanding of scriptures and share how it's benefited me and give testimonies. But you as a counselor, especially if you're going into counseling, you cannot impose your beliefs on others. It's certainly not at a time when they're grieving. You're going to get the opposite of what you're trying to get. You need to be there and be supportive for them, which I think is biblical in the Christian way to do that. So you hold their hand through it. You let them know that it is good to grieve, in spite of what we believe is going to happen. Ultimately, for now, we miss that person. It is good to grieve. It is healthy to grieve. Some people try and deny the grief, and that's one of the stages similar to going through death is denial. A lot of times we deny. That's a coping mechanism, whatever it may be, death or losing a job or moving away, whatever the case is. Denial is a coping mechanism. So we want to say, I'm okay. I'm a Christian. It's going to be okay. This doesn't hurt. And that's complete denial and rationalization. You're going to miss this person for now. If it's a loved one, you do want to pick up the phone or text or call or email or drop by, if you will, see them in church, see them at work, whatever have you. You're going to miss that. That's supposed to hurt. I have a term. It's not mine. It's called hugging the cactus. Yeah, just embrace it. It's supposed to hurt. It's going to leave some scars. It's going to be painful. But while you grieve, we need not despair. There's a difference between grieving and despairing. Despairing means to give up hope. Especially as Christians, we need not give up hope. While we do grieve, we need not give up hope. Even those who don't have a faith, or even if they're atheists, the grieving is good. They'll feel it. But despair means you're going to get over it. It's going to get a little bit better. Although grieving, I'll say this, is a lifelong process. It ebbs and flows. Gets a little better. Sometimes it gets worse. And if you've lost someone early in life and lived a long time, you'll recognize that probably, or people around holidays or just certain times, or you come across an old picture, an old letter, and grief washes over you once again, oftentimes. But we know that it's acceptable to grieve and good to grieve. The shortest scripture in the Bible is Jesus wept, and that's when he is there dealing with Mary and Martha, and they are telling him that Lazarus has died, and why Jesus wept. Lazarus was his friend, and he's gone, and he likely wept for Mary and Martha, who were very upset and even angry with Jesus a little bit that he did not return from his mission trip sooner, that he could have laid hands on Lazarus and prevented his death. Jesus ultimately went and brought Lazarus back from the death after some 3 or 4 days. I think it was 4 days. He had been buried in a cave, and Jesus went in and called him out. And Lazarus rose, and that's, kind of shows what it's going to be like. And there's a whole lot of theological lessons or lessons on theology there that I could talk about, but I'm not going to. As we look at this, our final chapters, in the, pardon the pun, in our course here, it is a very, it's an important part, much like the beginning of life. And we can look at it as psychologists. These slides kind of go through what I just talked about. And again, I can't go through everything that's going to go in, but I look forward. We're going to talk about this in the course room coming up, and in the coming week, our final week. So I'm going to let you get out of here. We're going to go with, I think we got for our Bible verse. I'm reading this morning, 1 Peter chapter 3. 1 Peter chapter 3, verses 8 and 9. I'm touched by that this morning as I prayed a little bit and then read, and I think that goes very well with life, with human development. So that'll be what we use to get your extra points, the extra credit points in the course room, and that'll be it. It's been my pleasure. It's been great. You guys are wonderful. I've enjoyed your discussions, uplifting. I've enjoyed taking this lifelong journey with you, if you will. And I'm looking forward to maybe seeing some of you again in future courses. I wish you all the best. Let's keep each other in prayer. I'll keep you in prayer. And your families as well, as in many cases they're taking this journey with you. I invite you, if you would, and solicit your prayers for myself and my family as we uplift each other and lift each other up, and try and strive, each of us, myself as well as yourselves, to walk in the steps that God has prepared for us, and to fulfill the purpose that He has for our lives, the purpose that God has for our lives. I know we were all created for at least one specific purpose, and sometimes more, according to God's will. And He thought of that purpose when He created us, speaking of human development. And to be still and ask God for that guidance, how you're going to serve that and serve Him and serve our brothers and sisters. That's key. So anyway, let's pray for each other and going forward. And I hope to see you again real soon.